Hello everyone, you're learning linguistics and literature with Imran. Today's lecture, branches of stylistic, will be divided into several parts. First, we will define and understand the concept of stylistic, and then we will move to discuss in detail each branch of stylistic. The link of each part will be given in the description list. You can also watch all these parts in the playlist titled is Style and Stylistic. So this lecture is very fruitful for the student of BS and MS English student. You can take any branch of stylistic and conduct your thesis. Furthermore, those who take interest in the subject stylistic, so they can learn also a lot about stylistic and the branches and the sub-disciplines of stylistic. So let's discuss our today's lecture, branches of stylistic. But before going to discuss branches of stylistic, we will define and understand the concept of stylistic. An introduction to stylistics. Introduction. Stylistic is interdisciplinary in nature as it incorporates the overlapping elements of various disciplines. So what does mean by interdisciplinary? When a subject involves in different area of knowledge, we call sub-subject as interdisciplinary. So stylistic is also interdisciplinary because it involves in different area of knowledge. For example, the knowledge of philosophy, the knowledge of psychology, the knowledge of cultural study, the knowledge of literary study, the knowledge of sociology, and so on. That's why we call stylistic as an interdisciplinary subject, right? And it incorporates the overlapping elements of various disciplines, right? So it overlaps with various disciplines and the discipline I just mentioned. Similarly, within the linguistic, it also overlaps. So this interdisciplinarity is not only observed outside from the field of linguistics, but also within the field of linguistics. For example, when we do a stylistic analysis of a poem, so stylistic incorporates with semantics, syntax, morphology, pragmatics, discourse, phonetics and phonology. So we can say that stylistic is an interdisciplinary field or interdisciplinary subject, and it incorporates the overlapping elements of various disciplines, and these disciplines can be outside from the field of linguistics as well as within the field of linguistics, right? It would be interesting to observe such particular aspect of various disciplines that stylistic has been influenced by intersections. So a few disciplines are there which are interdisciplinary like stylistic, right? Here we have a definition to stylistics. Stylistic is often defined as the study of literary texts using linguistic techniques. So what is stylistic? The study of literary text and using linguistic techniques. So the techniques are from linguistics while the text is literary, but not always. It is said that often. Now the techniques of linguistics are applicable to both literary and non-literary texts. We can apply these linguistic techniques on literary text, for example on drama, novel, poetry, right, and so on. And we can also apply these linguistic techniques on non-literary text, for example article, editorial, journalistic writing, and like speeches and talk shows, conversation. So these all are the example of non-literary text. So these linguistic techniques are applicable to both. But when we define stylistics, so we say that it is the study of literary text. Fine. Statisticians have focused more on the analysis of literary text. That's why we say this stylistic is concerned with the study of literary text. That statistician, the focus of statistician is more on the analysis of literary text rather than non-literary one. So with the aim to understand the working of what is defined socio-culturally as literature, because literature is socio-culturally bounded. On this slide, we will continue our introduction. Stylistic is primarily linguistic in orientation because the techniques for analysis of literary texts are taken from linguistic. That's why we say that stylistic is primarily linguistic in orientation. It emerged out of the discipline of language study. What? Stylistic. Stylistic emerged out of the discipline of language study, formalized in early 20th century as linguistic. What is formalized as linguistic? Stylistic is formalized as linguistic. It is based on the principle of linguistic and thus aims to be objective, rigorous, and replicable, and falsified. So the aim of stylistic is to be objective, not subjective, and rigorous. The procedure and rules are strictly followed to analyze a text. And replicable. By replicable, we mean that you can produce exactly the same copy. For example, you conduct a research and you come to a conclusion, and the second person conduct the same research and he or she comes to the same conclusion. So that would be replicable, right? So because it is objective, so if something is objective, so it must be also rigorous, also replicable, and falsified, right? You cannot prove it something that is false. As we know, linguistics is the scientific study of language. Thus, it's objective. Same is true with stylistics. It's also objective. So that's why stylistics agree that objectivity and falsibility are key to any analysis of literary texts. So when you analyze a literary text, it should be objective and you should avoid falsibility. It should not be false. And it is possible if you do stylistic analysis of a literary text. Literary criticism involves analysis and interpretation of literary works. So how does it happen? When you are doing literary criticism, so how you are going to analyze a literary text? So this involves explication of author's message, right? You will identify what is the message of the author, what is his intention, right? Socio-cultural factors. What are the socio-cultural factors in which the text was produced? And author's use of various literary techniques, because the author is also using different literary techniques, right? For example, figure of speech, metaphor, simile, personification, shadowing. Okay, so these are all literary techniques and devices, as well as his use of language. So these all are used when you are doing literary criticism of a text, of a work. So stylistic extends literary critics' linguistic observation and focuses on the pattern of language used the text. So what does stylistic do now? Stylistic extend literary critics. So this work was extended by stylistician, or stylistic extends, right, literary criticism. Critics linguistics observation and focuses on the pattern of language. So the focus is more on the pattern of language used in the text rather than literary devices. So it provides the basis for the aesthetic appreciation of literary works. So the focus of stylistics or stylistician is language rather than other things, right? So we can say that stylistic is the extension of literary criticism then. Fine. Leach describes stylistic as a bridge discipline that connects linguistic and literary studies. So Leach say that stylistic, it works like a bridge and it connects linguistic and literary studies, and points out by undertaking a linguistic analysis as part of relation between the two fields of study. We facilitate and anticipate an interpretive synthesis. So Leach, he says in 2008. Thus, Leach views stylistic as an interdiscipline. We already talked about how it is interdiscipline, which draws the insight of other disciplines like philosophy, sociology, psychology, culture, right? These are different disciplines other than language. So linguistic is already there, like semantics and pragmatics and morphology, grammar. So these things are there. Beside linguistic, also other discipline. So literary studies and literary criticism, even visual arts and cognitive. So these are the different subfield. So they take insight from literary studies and literary criticism, even visual arts and cognitive sciences have intersection with stylistic. Stylistic is concerned with form and function and meaning and covers a wide area of discipline. So both are there, form and function as well as meaning, and it covers a wide area of disciplines. So this is the last slide of introduction to stylistics. Stylistic is an expanding and developing area of recent study. So a lot of people are busy and they are doing stylistic analysis of literary text and non-literary text. It is not limited to studying the language of literature. Okay, on the one hand we have language of literature. So people are busy to study the language of literature. But also you can study different kind of field. Like as I told you, journalistic writing or newspaper or speeches and talk shows, conversation, right? So many people consider stylistic and literary stylistic to be identical as it deals more with the analysis of literary text. So when we say stylistic, so what comes in mind? Literary stylistic, because most often we are busy to analyze a literary text through linguistic techniques. That's why we say when we hear stylistic, so people say literary stylistics. But stylistic is not only concerned with literary stylistic but also with non-literary ones. However, non-literary texts can be analyzed for their stylistic features in the same way as literary texts. In such cases, features like foregrounding of deviation or the use of parallelism can be noted. So thank you so much. It was all about an introduction to stylistics. In the next lecture, we will talk in detail about branches of stylistic. But again, it will not be possible to discuss all branches of stylistics in one lecture. So we will discuss branches of stylistic maybe in 3 or 4 lectures. So please don't forget to subscribe and like the channel. Thank you so much.